I think going back to last Sunday after our game in Indiana, we got back here to the stadium about 3 o'clock, and my office overlooks a walkway that our players walk, and I sat up there at my desk and watched those guys walk to their cars. It was 3 in the morning. I knew they were emotionally hurting, but Sunday when I had a team meeting with them, it wasn't like there was disappointment. It was like anger, right? That they knew they probably had one that got away from us. And I just kind of, said to them at that point, like, listen, for us to win football games, obviously we can't lose them, right? We have to do what we have to do, but we have to play with an edge. We have to overcome things. And today, defensively, the way they responded, our offense obviously hit some stumbling blocks with some turnovers, some penalties, and our defense just kept sawing wood. I told those guys, I kind of waited. I told our staff what we were going to do. I made this game all about us on Sunday with a tone, and then on Wednesday I sprung it on them that this was the first of 7 rematch games. It's unusual to get an out-of-conference opponent as a rematch game. We have 6 more in front of us that come from our divisional play, but this was a big statement to me about where we were a year ago to where we are now. And obviously they've got new coaches and everything, but a majority of a lot of their players were there. Some of ours are back, and I kind of wanted to see where we were as a program. So for us to have the correctable moments we had today, to persevere and play that, and I know that despite we couldn't come at a better time. I really like the way our schedule lays out to have this week to kind of recoup, get ourselves back to fundamental football, especially offensively on some fundamental things, and get ourselves into the UT Chattanooga week. I think we're giving away free student tickets, so hopefully we're going to have a live crowd on that Thursday night. I know everybody loves those Thursday night games, so we're going to try to do everything we can to get this place as excited as we can, and then get back into Big Ten play after that.
It's a pretty spectacular game from the back end of the defense, the secondary from where we sat. What would you see from the?
We got talented players. I showed those guys some clips this week, and then last night in our team meeting, I showed 10 plays of guys just doing really good fundamental plays. Good football plays are usually the result of good fundamentals, and these guys, especially on defense, the way Ryan and Aaron coach them and teach them, sound fundamentals, the pass breakups, and then pass rush. I thought our pass rush took a big jump this week. Just getting on the edges. You saw a guy like Gabe Ackus, who we've seen now for a couple weeks. Some of these young players, Tyson Brooks got in a corner. I saw Canetta in there. I saw Dylan Rosiak. Like, we get some young players in there on defense, and that's how you build things. You get young players to emulate players that came before them, and that's how you build something. And again, for us to be where we are now coming out of this Virginia game compared to last year when we came out of that Virginia game, especially defensively, tells me a lot about where we are as a program.
But is there anything specifically you remember about that flight home that kind of would paint how far you guys had come?
I got a little upset in the fourth quarter. I saw that our guys were doing a little dance number down there because I showed them specifically a play where Virginia sideline did that. There was a play late in the fourth quarter where I watched their whole group get together and over there, and that had stuck in my mind. I'd taken that mental picture and I couldn't shake it, and then Joe Maggio, our video coordinator, found it, and I was playing that in the locker room all week. Just showed that clip after clip after clip of that, and I wanted them. Respect is a big thing in my life. Like I don't have to like you, but I probably respect you if you deserve it. And I wanted this program to be respected, and today hopefully was a step in the right direction.
Bret, given you guys are moving the ball a lot better than last year, if you can clean up those turnovers, red zone issues, like, what do you think this team is capable of?
It was really good. It's a correctable moment to play the way we did, right, and win the way that the game really wasn't midway through the second quarter. It was really never in. I don't think anybody really. I was anxious, right, and knew we had some correctable moments. But yeah, I specifically talked about ball security coming out of last week's game because I could see it, right. I watched the film the way I watch it, and there was a lot of issues with plays from behind, guys coming up and swinging, and they definitely had coached them up on that. I give Virginia a lot of credit. So those are. I'm glad they came alive and are real in a win, right? Usually those moments are correctable moments after a loss, and we can't have those. So I know we'll have their ears and their eyes and their attention this week with a bye week. It's kind of a great way to go back to some fundamental ball security stuff. But yeah, we're moving the ball. Tommy does a really good job. Obviously. Chase is a special player. I know he went for whatever it was, 140 again. I've been around some good ones, but he's a very dynamic, special player. But even he put one on the ground today, right? So we can't have those moments. But there's a lot of guys playing good football. The tight ends to play the way they did. 2 tight ends get touchdowns. Luke Ford was covering kicks for us. Like, Luke came to me and said, "Hey, what can I do?" And I put him in I coached him on 2 different units, both the punt and the kickoff coverage. To see him cover a kick, that just shows, I think, what this team has done. Anybody will buy in to do anything. And then, some correct Isaiah Adams. We can't have those penalties, right? And I'll get his attention. That's my responsibility. So there's a lot of really good things that we're going to get better at, and then hopefully have a better performance against UT Chattanooga.
Your defensive front was getting pressures earlier this year, and they were getting in the backfield, but to get sacks, as a former D lineman yourself, coach that position, is there a difference where that can manifest itself?
Well, this guy was hanging on the ball a little bit. Last week, Indiana guy was, you could tell they just weren't going to take negative yard plays, right? It's impossible to sack a guy that doesn't want to be sacked, right? Like, he just gets rid of the ball. So you can't lose your mind altogether in that moment. But again, Kevin, J-Mo, Ryan, I know our pass rush, our one-on-one drills this week, I know I made a couple of points about what we got to do, and it happened out there today. But I was really excited to see a guy like Gabe Backus and a couple of new faces kind of do some things in there overall.
It seems like stretched the field a little bit offensively.
Yeah.
Was that something you saw on film leading up to
Barry
the game?
did. Barry's, very conscientious, detail guy, and I know coming out of that Indiana game, he I think took a really good look at what he wanted to do in critical moments. I think that goal line play, right, to get down there and go win big people and hit that little power pass was a nice thing to put on film, and then really just to turn around in the second half and play pretty clean. I think Pat's Bryant's was in the second half, right, but other than that, we played pretty clean after that.
Going into the season, kind of historically, it's like this is the year Illinois is really going to use the tight ends. All 3 played a big role today. Just what did you see from that group?
Yeah, I was excited. Mike Marquez is a guy that's done everything for us since he got here, right? Like, I just love the kid. Like, asked him to move from linebacker to tight end, and then he got in there on that. That play was a design play. I showed it Thursday. Really could have been all 3 tight ends. Any one of them could have ran it, but we wanted to have a fresh guy in there to hit that moment to make a nice over-the-shoulder catch. Really speaks volumes. Then Tip to make the nice play on the back of the end zone. Again, Luke to get involved in the kicking game. That's a big step, right? So we're doing good things. Somebody brought it up on the radio, right? So this is the first Power 5 win against a non-conference opponent since 2011. I wasn't aware of that till just now, and we're not there yet, but I definitely am excited where we are and where I think we can potentially go.
What's it mean to get a win heading into a week? You guys are going to go out recruiting.
Yeah, it makes my plane. I'm going to be in 4 states in 3 days, or actually 4 states in 2 days. So it does make those rides a little bit easier, and going into schools and people see us, and even just like last week, we had a couple of rule changes, right? So we could start reaching out to 24s and 23s, and had a couple visitors in today. I think there's a buzz about us that is good. Obviously, that Indiana game, to get that back would be, I told our guys after the game, we can't lose sight of that setback we had, right? And use that as a catalyst to move forward and see where we can hopefully go.
Brett, how did you approach halftime? Were you mad? Were you did you have to remind yourself you were up 21-3 and there were good things that happened?
No, the first thing I said is, what's the score? And they all yelled 0-0, right? So that's a big thing in our I don't think it's just verbiage. I think they believe it. I went in, I just believe, so the way our locker room sets up, the defense over here, offense over here, and I went and used the little boy's room, came out, and maybe that's too much information. But I spoke to the defense, told them, hey, let's get off field on 3rd down. This is going to be a throw game. This plays into the guys. You guys want to rush passer? This is what we're going to do. I walked over the offense. I said, the good news is the things that are stopping us are in this room right now. Let's get them corrected. Let's take our moment to move forward. Let's clean up our protection. We're kind of a do-your-job type group. We talked about owning the moment. I thought Whitney Merciless yesterday did a captain talk, a guest captain that was just unbelievably awesome. And he talked about, he waited here in this program for a couple of years, and then when his moment came, he took advantage of it. I think you tweeted, right, like one of the most impressive senior year or seasons that you've ever seen a guy have. 16 sacks and 9 fumbles, and he told our guys he didn't like miraculously get better. He just talked about how he took advantage of the moment, right? And he approached that game. He talked about letting his dog out, and I think a couple guys talked about that. We actually had Isaiah mention it this morning in our breakfast prayer, and I just talked to our guys about owning the moment, and good or bad, right? And there were some bad moments in the first half that turned hopefully good, and I really like our approach.
Just for clarity, did you like your defensive guys kind of with that outpouring of emotion?
I just think that we have to own it, right? Like, to me, you respect on everybody on that sideline. That was in the last 30 seconds. To me, the game was still a little bit in play, but I quickly got on the headset and put a cease and desist order out on that one.
Brett, they were 2 for 20 on 3rd and 4th down. How did that factor in? How did that help you guys?
Yeah, and one was by penalty, right? So anytime you throw out that kind of number, Ryan Walters and the defensive staff it's special to work with these guys, and they're very, very contagious. I know offensively we had some hiccups in the first half, but Barry, the way he approaches them, him and Ryan, I don't know during my career if I've ever felt as good about my two coordinators. I know we haven't won a lot of games yet, but I can see what's coming, and I'm very, very excited about that. Defensively, I think it's just another great indicator of how much growth we had in a year, right? These guys threw it all around on us last year, and the quarterback was back. He's a very dynamic player, and our guys, took advantage of today's opportunities.
Said in here before.
Last one here.
Actually, he's been trying to ask a question, so
I'll let you double dip, Robert. You go.
Okay.
We'll go
Okay.
to.
All right. We sat here before and talked to coach and said, "Hey, coach, 10 penalties, 4 turnovers, cost you the game, this and that." Here we're saying 10 penalties, 4 turnovers. You won by 21.
Right.
Explain that to me.
Well, I think that we're a group that takes advantage of opportunities. Like there definitely was defensively. So I know you don't see it as an opportunity, but when we threw that first pick, to me that's a defensive opportunity to go out and put out a fire, right? And they did that. They did that exact deal, right? We had a ball going in the end zone, and obviously PB got stripped behind, right? That's a miscue, right? But it's an opportunity for our defense to go out there and stand up, right? And so I think it's all about outlook. I appreciate the question, but some of these penalties, right? Like, were some frustrating things. Isaiah's was unforced, but yeah, we definitely can't sustain against Big Ten opponents and have those same type of numbers. But to learn that today is huge.
Gabe, what is he kind of showing you to be able to be as involved in the pass rush as he has been this early in his career?
With Gabe, yeah, Gabe's special, man. Gabe's, I remember getting a phone call from 2 high school coaches in Florida that I think the world of, Lenny Jankowski and Jack Daniels. I know it sounds like a joke, but those guys, they called me and said, "Hey, you gotta watch this guy." And I flipped on the film. We were going into a bye week. I literally called Aaron Henry and said, "Hey, changing plans. You're gonna go down and watch this guy practice." And that's when we got on him, and we battled it out at the end. I think it was us in Tennessee for him at the end, and I think we knew how well he was hopefully going to help our program, and he's kind of come into his own. I think he'd been frustrated he hadn't got more reps, and I just told him, I said, "You get reps when you earn the opportunities." And today he's got a couple different things. He's got tremendous power, he has a glide step, and he has good instincts. As a pass rusher, those things are and really, really quality things that if you don't have them, it's hard to teach them, and he's got those basic elements.